What's good? It's Woog. I want to give you some final thoughts heading into Haney versus Lomachenko. The stage is set. They just weighed in successfully, both of them. And before we get into the X's and O's, and I am still leaning Devin Haney, but before we get into any of that, during this last face-off, there was a push from Devin Haney to Lomachenko. And look, if I end up putting too much into this, let me know in the comments, but this wasn't a typical push. I mean, you have different types of pushes. You have the push where you make contact and then you shove once you've made contact, and then you kind of have like the jab, the jolting, boom, just a quick, like, cornerbacks do it to wide receivers when they're coming off the line, just that quick hand check, just a boom. Devin Haney seemed to have a combination of both, but it was super sudden. And it was at a moment of the stare down where Devin Haney was kind of leaning in. He was saying something. Lomachenko was very upright. You know how his posture is. And then Devin Haney hits him with the shove. And it looked, from what I saw, that Lomachenko was totally not ready for that push. And it might be one thing if Devin Haney, a 24-year-old, was pushing another 20-something-year-old. But Lomachenko being 35 years old, like, the body doesn't have the same shocks or the same ability to absorb that type of hit. And again, look, these guys are boxers, so they're going to be hitting each other all night and pushing and clinching and probably hitting each other with a couple forearms. There's going to be a lot of activity in this fight, but that is what these guys signed up for. Lomachenko at 35 did not sign up for the day before the fight look, again, let me know if I am exaggerating here, but it's a minor car crash when you get hit with a certain type of push when your body's not ready, and you could have a sore neck for the next couple of days. So look, perhaps Lomachenko isn't sore at all in the neck. If he's not sore right now, I think that there's a likelihood that he could be sore tomorrow morning. I mean, who wants to wake up into fight night with something bothering your body in any way that wasn't bothering your body 2 days prior? So again, let me know if I'm making something out of nothing here. Again, these are tough guys. These guys have been hit for most of their adult lives, right? But I don't think that this shove was nothing. Now, it might have been on a psychological level, Haney's way of getting into Lomachenko's head. Haney asserting that, yes, I am the bigger guy and I'm going to bully you, tomorrow. In fact, I'm going to bully you right now, just so you know that I could bully you. There was probably a psychological component to it, but I also think there's a physical component to it. Whether or not Haney was intending for there to be, I think that with a certain type of push, if your body is totally not ready for that impact, that you can have some sort of a whiplash effect. So look, it might have amounted to nothing, and this all might boil down to nothing throughout fight day, and however the fight's going to play out, it's going to play out. So maybe it has zero impact. I just have a hunch that it might have a higher than 0% impact. And I'm not just talking psychologically. But when it comes to the X's and O's, look, I read a lot of your commentary in mentioning that Devin Haney was unable to find Jojo Diaz with the jab, Jojo Diaz, a southpaw, for much of their fight. That is true, and he did hit at a very low percentage with his jab. I mean, he did have certain rounds where he was doing better with the jab, and he continued to throw the jab, but he was also throwing a good amount of right hand. So it's going to be interesting, and I think I mentioned this in the actual preview. Check that out when you have a chance. But I'm looking at both of their backhands. I'm looking at Lomachenko's left and Devin Haney's right. But I'm also looking to see what is established in the first couple of rounds, because I have a hunch that Haney's going to be winning, say, 3 out of the first 4 rounds. If Lomachenko actually gets off to a decent start where Haney looks like he's unable to, kind of corral Lomachenko pace-wise and can't dictate the speed of the fight, and if he can't figure that out by 3 rounds, he might be in for a really tough one against Lomachenko, especially because Lomachenko, once he has certain things figured out, is able to kind of turn up the temperature going into the middle and then late rounds, right? I mean, normally you'd be concerned about the 35-year-old in the second half of the fight, but, Lomachenko against Teofimo, Lomachenko against Jermaine Ortiz, we have been seeing Lomachenko pick up in the second half of the fight. I mean, he stopped Nakatani in like somewhere between the 7th and 9th rounds, I believe. And think of how he was beating up on Richard Commey second half of the fight. So I feel like this 35-year-old actually takes a while to get cooking, which is also normal for older fighters. But with Lomachenko, sometimes you could look like you're doing well. I thought Nakatani was doing well in the first 2 rounds of their fight, but by the 3rd, 4th round, that's where both of these guys really start to cook, Lomachenko and Haney. So it's going to be really interesting just seeing the tussle for control, asserting yourself in this fight in the first 3 rounds. So it's going to build intensity wise as we go through the second and then into the 3rd round. And, maybe Haney does end up bullying Lomachenko a bit. Look, this could cut one of a couple ways. This push, from Haney. Again, you could have slightly injured Lomachenko, possibly. But if this works the other way and Lomachenko is just further motivated, not like he didn't have motivation to begin with, but look, I know Lomachenko to be a pretty nasty individual once he gets inside of the ring. He's not somebody who shies away from a fight getting a little muddy, getting a little mean, turning up the viciousness. I think that Haney has that in him, but a part of me wonders if Haney actually pushed Lomachenko out of character so he could assert within himself that he has the viciousness of his opponent. I don't know. I can't get in the guy's head, but look, I wasn't expecting to see a push, and it hasn't been a typical Devin Haney move. So I'm just wondering if it came out of a place of strength or if it came out of a place of fear or a different type of anxiety. I don't know. And I wonder how Haney's feeling weight-wise going into fight day. And I am still curious what it's going to look like on the inside. If Haney, misses with his first shot or hits with his first shot, and how he'll dip to a certain side. And it was mentioned by, I believe it was James Backlig in the comments, had mentioned how that is a borderline illegal move when you essentially take your head or your face basically out of play by dipping in a way that makes it illegal for the opponent to then hit you. So we're going to see how the referee, Harvey Dock, officiates this one. I'm really curious to see how the inside fighting plays out. But yes, I am just as curious to see how the at-range battle plays out. There are just so many different variables, and a lot of the boxes that Haney checks, Lomachenko has also checked throughout his career. And then in terms of the legs, Haney's got the younger legs. So a part of me thinks that I feel like Lomachenko has been a bit easier to find and to hit in his last 3 to 5 fights. It hasn't been the same defensive wizard in Lomachenko. We're not in that zone of his career. So I do think that Haney's going to find him with something with regularity, whether it's a jab or whether it's a right hand. I think he's going to touch him with something, even a jab to the body, perhaps. But yeah, I'm just really curious to see how this one unfolds. I am intrigued by that stare down push. And I don't know where it came from a place of, or was it just promotional? Was it just to get those headlines through social media and so forth? I know, friends of mine who don't even watch boxing sending me clips saying, check this out when it came to the push. So, in that regard, you want to up the amount of pay-per-view buys. It could have just been that. I'm just saying, even if it was just that, it could have come with some otherwise unintended consequences in actually causing pain in Lomachenko's neck the next day. I don't know, but I'm still leaning Devin Haney slightly. I think that it's going to come down to a lot of uncertainty going into the scorecards. I don't think he's going to win like a 9 rounds to 3 type of fight. It would be interesting to see if there's a knockdown in this one. Could you, the amount of excitement that a knockdown in a fight like this would generate, because this is such a high stakes fight. You basically have the best, or at least one of the best of the current generation against, a 3 division champ who basically hits his physical ceiling at 135. Devin Haney, on the other hand, is starting his career at 135. So they are at different stages of the hill. And again, Lomachenko was topping out at a weight that Devin Haney is starting off at. But this is just a hugely important fight. And again, for Haney's legacy, a win versus Lomachenko does everything that those 2 wins against Kambosos couldn't do, even though those wins brought Haney his undisputed lightweight champion status. And yeah, there is still unfinished business even after this fight, because you still have a Gervonta Davis out there, and you now have a Shakur Stevenson out there, among other very good fighters who I want to see fight each other as well. I love to see William Zepeda get in the mix with somebody, Frank Martin, Esau Cruz, Pitbull. But Right now, we've got the battle for Undisputed, and it is a very appropriate fight because remember, this was supposed to be Lomachenko's title shot against George Kambosos, but Lomachenko stayed back in the Ukraine as they were being invaded by Russia. So the next person in line for that opportunity ended up being Devin Haney. And by the way, and for that, I think that we should always give Kambosos props for not taking a significantly lesser title defense opponent. He said, nope, I can't. Okay, Lomachenko can't do it right now. Okay, yeah, we'll give Devin Haney the shot. I'll always tip my hat to George Kambosos for that. But yeah, let me know what you think about Devin Haney versus Vasily Lomachenko in the comments. Who do you think will win and why? I personally, again, am leaning Haney via very close decision, but I think that the odds are kind of bogus to have Lomachenko in some books as like a plus 240 or to have like Haney at a minus 280. I don't think that that's warranted. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. I can't wait for this one. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Enjoy the fight.